Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Well, it is for me. I don't know when you're going to listen to this, so it could be a totally different day. Anyways, I wanted to come on today and talk about the power in not having to be confident, positive, or even proud of what you've done. And this is a real game changer for people. Like, it's a game changer for how we teach our kids, but it's also a game changer for adults as well. So what is the difference? And some people might even be going into like, what's the opposite of being not being confident, proud, or positive, right? Like most people would think, well, that's unconfident, I don't know, negative, and so on. So what I would bring to you is that those are a lot of times, not always. Like, so I'm not saying don't be these things. I'm just saying they are not the be all and end all. The be all and end all is when we're truly being. How many people do you know that are so proud of their accomplishments and yet they don't feel like it's worth living? I mean, there's tons of people that we're seeing in our own lives, as well as on social media and in the news, who are choosing no longer to live because the accomplishments and even the connections with others isn't enough. It isn't enough. So what does make life worth living? What is like beyond the power of positivity, beyond the power of confidence, and beyond what you could ever be proud of? It's having a true and meaningful connection with yourself. Now, a lot of people look at this, that like the result of that is confidence, the result of that is positivity, and the result of that is being proud. Sometimes it is, but a true sense of self is rooted in being. It's rooted in those moments. Sorry. It's rooted in those moments when we aren't confident, when we're not proud, and when we aren't being positive. Like we might be racked with sadness or even racked with anger. And it's fully being connected to the self, asking the questions of, what would be a contribution to me right now? What would I like to choose? Not should I choose. Not what would make other people happy in this moment, but what would fulfill me? And I gather that not many people ask this. I mean, the amount of people that I work with, there are very few that ask those questions very often. And even if they're not asking exactly those questions, they're not asking the essence of those questions. It's why most people come to me, is to get back to like, who am I? What would I like to create that is beyond the space of being proud? And yes, you're still being proud at times, but to be truly fulfilled, even in those moments where you don't know what to say, when you're completely not confident. Like to go into a situation knowing that just being in you, just being you will change everything. That as you move and choose through, because you're being you, things will fall away, limitations, doubts, fears, judgments, and so on. And that it's all inside of you, because limitations, doubts, judgments, fears, sadness, anger, rage, it's in every single one of us. And so when we're able to like truly see ourselves without judgment, without being in that space that like something needs to be eliminated from self, it starts to transform, and it starts to be a fuel for our beingness, right? So what ends up happening is, instead of us being separated from self and being pulled in so small and creating so much tension. So yesterday I did a talk and I asked people, like, where do you generally feel the most tension in your body? And so they would put their hand where it was, wherever it is. And I'm like, that's where you've pulled yourself in. You've pulled yourself in so small. And if we're this cosmic force, that's like the power of a sun. And we pulled ourselves in so small, so as to really hide from others, so that we could absorb what they want us to be and to echo that instead of being who we are, which may end up being what they want us to be anyway. It may not. But we pull this light and this energy in so far, and it really puts a ton of pressure on us, internal pressure. So how many of you are dealing with so much internal pressure that you can't even stand it anymore? And no amount of like making yourself feel confident in what you know and confident in who you are is doing anything. There's no amount of accomplishments that you've done that are proud enough to like take away the pressure, because what your being knows is it's so much more. It can actually do so much more as well. However, it just is so much more. And if you just like soaked into that, like leaned into that space, you would find so much grace, so much energy. I mean, how many of you are taking supplement after supplement, changing your diet, trying to do different things, and yet your lack of energy is because what you are trying to do is to keep yourself so small so as to please others, and it's not pleasing anyone, including yourself. The immensity of energy that you have within you, it takes so much energy to keep it small. And it's interesting, in my interesting point of view, that when we try to be confident, we are keeping ourselves small because we are so much bigger than confidence. When we're trying to be proud of ourselves, we're so much bigger than what we could be proud of, because our very being is something to just be in awe of. So are you teaching yourself, are you teaching your kids that they should be confident, positive, and proud? Because what happens when they're negative? What happens when they do things that they're not proud of? When you do things that you're not proud of? What happens when you're no longer confident? Like you walk into a totally different situation and you have zero confidence. Do you walk away? Do you only stay in the places where you can be positive, confident, and proud? Because if you do, you're actually not allowing your being to stretch into places that it knows it could be greater. It's really a sense of comfort that comes with positive, confident, and proud. That discomfort comes when we choose to go into those places that are not that, and yet are really the birthplace of so much more. We are so much more. We are so much more. And our unknowing is the birthplace of reaching out and finding out. Or it may be an unknowing of the mind, and then we go into question, beautiful question that doesn't come with an immediate answer, but a question that either goes out to the universe at large or goes back into our body awareness, and then that higher space of knowing that is in every cell of our being comes up and tells us a totally different answer. Because see, our brain is based on the knowledge that has been given to us through old experiences, through media, through parents, through teachers. It's old knowledge. But our body awareness and our spirit is connected to all knowledge, all of it. And so when we ask a question that we don't have an immediate answer for, we are opening ourselves up and unlocking that space of tension within inside of us and asking it to give us deeper and greater answers. Sometimes you'll be shocked at how silly the answer is and yet how powerful it is. So are you willing today, and maybe to just play with what it would be like to walk into a situation where you weren't positive? And opposite of not positive is not necessarily negative. It's just possibly no emotion, lack of emotion. It could be even negative. It could be that like you're negative as in you're fearful, you're doubtful. Are you willing to like take yourself and love yourself and embrace yourself and connect with that part of you and just say, it's okay. It's totally okay to feel this way. And we're still going to choose to be here. We're still going to choose to do this. If it's a greatest contribution to your health and well-being, ask those questions first. So, right, there might be situations where everything in you said it has an alarm bell and it says, do not go there, do not go there. Listen to that. But many times we have just this slow rumbling that might even be a huge fear. And yet, like, there's a knowing inside of us, if we tap in and ask, that says, carry on. Because if you carry on, you'll find that everything else melts away. And when you emerge out of this space, it will be a greater space, and you will find a more fulfilling space of who you are and a deeper adoration and awe for who you be. That is a life-giving space. That is a constant question. That is a constant nurturing that we can be in, so that every day we ask ourselves, even in the tiniest, this isn't in the biggest moments, but the tiniest moments, how would I like to be when I'm in the car? What does that have to do with anything? Well, if you fill your car with your energy and the connection with yourself, and you actually ask yourself on your journey, what would be a contribution to you? You'll find what it is. It might be silence. For me, lately, it's been a lot of silence. It might also be like really fun music. It might be a phone conversation with someone that you deeply connect with. But many times I don't, like, we're so filled up with other people and our responsibilities and what we need to accomplish. We're so filled with all of that that we don't ask what we would be like to be in this moment, and to not rush from thing to thing, but to like be in the moments in between. What are you doing with the moments in between where you get to be? Because then when you arrive on the other side to whatever you're going to, how much more of you are you bringing with you? Or are you just bringing somebody who's done another thing for your kids? I'm the super mom. Like, I've taken my kids to school. I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to take them to a sport. I'm going to take them to another one. And we just fill ourselves with so much doing an accomplishment, so that we can raise our hand and say, I'm an amazing this, that, or the other. But in it, where were we? Where was the connection with us? The same person or another person can do those same things, and it can be the most nurturing, fulfilling experience ever. Because they're being, and they show up however they are, and they nurtured themselves in between, and they were aware and allowance of whatever was showing up for themselves, and they asked questions, and they lived the most fulfilling life ever, connected to self. I was listening to a video last night with Obama, and he was talking about the wall. And so I don't want to get into politics, but I really thought like his description of like the United States building a wall around itself. And I know right now we're just talking about one that excludes Mexico. But he's like, there's no possible way that you could ever build a wall big enough or strong enough to keep all evil and everything out. What it ends up keeping out is the good that could possibly come. And really what it ends up keeping out is it keeps out the sense of being as a nation. But I want to say, like, I want to bring it away from the nation. Whatever walls you have around you, and sometimes doing is a wall that's around you that is protecting you from actually connecting with self. You're keeping out all the good, and you're leaving yourself really alone. No amount of protection, no amount of defense will actually connect you with a life-giving energy that is what you are, and that is what would be a true and meaningful connection with another person. When someone is protected, they're actually in defense mode. Have you ever walked into somebody who's defensive? Is it fun to be around them? Or are they always looking for how harm can come to them? So it doesn't matter if you come with goodness. They wonder where the stab in the back is going to come. And then they end up attracting that. So if you're walking around with any kind of protection all the time, you are actually walking around as a defensive person, which means that you are in this bubble of emptiness, attracting that which you don't want to attract, and leaving yourself utterly alone. And many people defend with sarcasm, funny jokes, accomplishments, incessantly sharing their accomplishments, whatever it is. It might even be silence or anger or whatever it is. We are a nation filled with people who are incredibly protected, incredibly defended. And it's really what has been taught. And so this is not a wrongness. It's really been taught. And yet the greatest way that we can change this is for our children and for ourselves is to move out of a space of defense, to move into a space of openness, to move into a space of vulnerability. And a space of vulnerability is actually true power, because when you are truly being all that you are without defense, you show up and you're like, here I am. I don't have all the answers. I have some amazing answers and I have some amazing capacities, but I have some things that I'm really terrible at, and you're just open. And it's like a really fun place of vulnerability, because then you look and you say, I'm willing to be taught, or it's not really worth it. Like, it's not even worth teaching me. I mean, there's some things for real that if somebody were to teach me, it's just not even in my wheelhouse. And so I'll honor the fact that they're amazing at it and I can stand in awe of them, but it doesn't make me feel any less than, because I'm completely open to the fact that I'm a myriad of things. I'm a myriad of things that I'm absolutely brilliant at, and then other things that I'm really terrible at. And then there's a ton of things in between. And those things are constantly shifting. And I'm in the awareness of them. And you might show up and you might be somebody who gives me new awarenesses. And they might even startle me at times. It might startle me to find out I didn't know that I didn't know something. Right? And yet I can move quickly out of that space of being startled into the space of acceptance and allowance that I am within me all things, which means I have great capacities and lesser capacities, and I have joy, and I have sadness, and I have anger. I have all those things. And when we move into the space that we are all things, we move really out of the space of judgment of others, because we realize we are it. Anyways, that was my soapbox today. What are your thoughts on this? What are your experiences with it? I would love you to put those in the comments below. And even if you don't agree, that's okay. Like, that's the beauty of things. I love to be in disagreement with others at times. It gives me a greater clarity of where I stand. I'm not the be all and end all, for sure not. I'm just another human being sharing what I know for me and what has helped a lot of people that I work with. So if any of this resonates and you would like to talk to me in any way, feel free to comment below or to private message me, or you can even email me at tara.mccullum@gmail.com. Thanks so much and have a beautiful week.